Welcome to the Queens of Quality podcast, where we talk about some of the basic and not so basic impacts of compliance and quality within the pharmaceutical and biotech industry. Your host, Micheline Bradley, has insight and stories from over 25 years in the industry, and each week she will meet you here to bust common misconceptions and myths, update you on industry news and trends, share great discussions with knowledgeable guests, and solutions to challenges that will make your life in bioscience not just easier, but more gratifying. All of this is done with a balance of levity and irreverence that is much needed for work that is inherently serious and has very real repercussions on patients' health and safety. The Queens of Quality can be found for free wherever you catch podcasts. You can check the show notes for our website, medicineconsultingservices.com, and for more info. Now, please sit back and hold on to your hat. It's your favorite Queen of Quality, Micheline Bradley.
Hi, and welcome back to the Queens of Quality. I am your host, Micheline Bradley, and I am here today with Katrina Hodson. And Katrina is in data management, and we have known each other for almost 25 years now.
Wow.
I know. So we worked together in our first ever industry job. And since then, I have gone on to PV and QA and IT, and Katrina has very much built her brand and built her name around the data management world. Welcome, Katrina.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Katrina, what brought you into data management and what keeps you there?
Wow. So that was a long time ago. I started in data management in 2004 at a small CRO that's located in Southern California. It was actually located about 5 miles from my house at the time. It was a perfect solution because prior to that, I was commuting about 50 miles each way in traffic to my work. And it was just, I was struggling with migraines, and just being on the road so much was really stressful for me. So really, initially, what drew me to data management was the fact that they were willing to give me a shot in data management. Based on my clinical experience that I had coming into the role and some familiarity I had with data management, I landed the position. There was definitely a learning curve for me because my experience was in was in clinical. So I did have to learn the ropes of data management. I was brought in as a clinical data manager, so I had to learn the ropes quickly. I led my first study in diabetic neuropathy, and it was something I had never done before. And so there was just a bunch of learning I had to do. But I'm a learner, so that was good. I liked learning. I liked the challenge of onboarding with a new skill. And very, very quickly, I realized this is totally in my wheelhouse. This is not just in my wheelhouse professionally, but it's in my wheelhouse, just kind of who I am as a person, wanting to connect dots, wanting to see things make sense. And so for me, it just really resonated with just my core and some of my key skills of and who I am as a person outside of industry. I stayed at that CRO for 15 years. And the reason I stayed at that CRO for 15 years was the people. Nowadays, no one stays at a CRO 15 years. That's kind of a unicorn thing of the past. But I did, and I was surrounded by a bunch of other people that did, which was very cool. And what keeps me in data management is really just the ever evolving landscape of data management. I feel like I've gotten a handle on things, and then we start talking about data science. And then, and that changes everything for us. We're constantly encountering new technologies, new EDC platforms. And so for me, it's that learning that I started off with in the beginning really resonates with me now. And I'm always learning. I have to keep learning. And so for me, this functional area of industry keeps me on my toes. And that's why I love it.
And so what made you go out and start your own group?
Well, I started my own LLC because, well, I'll back up. left the CRO because as a working mom, you think once your kids get to kind of the high school age, you're off to the races. You've gotten through kindergarten and daycare, and now they can fend for themselves and get their own food. And really what the reality is that the older they get, sometimes the more they need you. And so I realized I needed to step out of the corporate world and do something that provided a little bit more flexibility. I was devastated to leave my CRO. I loved working there. I loved my manager. I loved my management team. It was a challenge for sure to leave. But I was starting something that I really believed in, and that was something for my family that would allow me more flexibility and opportunity to be there for them. In 2020, October of 2020, during the pandemic, I left my CRO, and in June of 2022, I started my own company. And the reason I did that is really for tax purposes in California. It's a significant tax benefit to work your company through an LLC. So rather than being an independent contractor, I quickly found that my sponsors and recruiters that I was working with really liked that model. They liked that I was protected by an LLC. They liked that I had liability insurance. And they also liked that if they needed additional resources, I could find those resources and put them through my company rather than having to do another contract with another resource. So last year, I brought on a more of a junior level clinical data manager to join my team. And she provided instant benefit to my sponsors and myself just because she could go through my company. It was easy contract. We could onboard her and ramp her up with my sponsors, and she could basically start providing services right away. So that was a huge benefit for us. Since then, she's recognized the tax benefits of having her own LLC as well, and has started her own company. So I'm really an outfit of one now, and very, very happy with that. And I feel like the advantages of being a consultant for me have worked really well for my life and where I am with my family.
Okay, so let's go back a little bit. So you are a consultant of one, but you also have teams that you work with.
Yes.
Who are like your preferred teams to work with,
Yep.
No matter what their status is as far as LLC or incorporated or
Yep.
all of that. So how does that work as far as, I really want to get into the business end of it, not to the client facing business end of it, not the bookkeeping business end of it. So where do you see, like, what do you want your clients to know before they come in to find or before they start moving to clinical and needing a data management group?
What do you mean before they start moving to clinical? Can you ask that question a different way? Before they
Yes.
start moving into research, or before they start moving into clinical trials phase 1, or what?
Before they start moving into clinical trials phase 1 and need a data management platform.
That's a tough one, because there's needing a data management platform. Every clinical trial obviously needs one. A lot of my sponsors think that maybe there's only one or two options out there, and they have to use the option that's maybe most popular. And that's not always the case. Sometimes those more popular EDC systems are not fit for purpose for what they're doing. And so I liken it to a car analogy. So if I have a 16-year-old driver, which now I've had 4, and they want me to buy them a car, I'm certainly not going to buy them a Lamborghini, right? And I may be more willing to buy them like a really reliable, well-maintained Toyota Camry. And for me, that's how I explain EDC systems is all you really need to make sure is that one, it's a validated 21 CFR Part 11 compliance system. That's obviously key. But beyond that, you just need to make sure it's fit for purpose for your individual study, not necessarily even your individual company, because each study is different and each study has different needs and different budgets. And so for me, I find a lot of value, a lot of pride in helping educate sponsors in the differences between the different systems and helping them choose a system that really is best for them. There's a lot of options, there's a lot of noise, and really sifting through that noise, drilling down to what they need is where I find a lot of gratification.
Awesome. And then what do you find to be the most challenging parts of working within the industry? Like what are the pieces that you wish that you could level out for your clients or yourself or your team?
I don't know. Let me think about that. I may have you ask that question a different way. What is the intent?
What do you want it to look like?
I don't have a problem with what it looks like now, frankly. I think I would like there to be more visibility into the options that are out there technology-wise.
Mm-hmm.
A lot, maybe more education for sponsors. There's a lot of CROs. Well, the CRO's primary responsibility is to make sure that they have a platform that works for your study and that works for them. But really, the sponsors need to make sure it's a platform that works for their sponsor company as well. So I think that there's a lot of education that could happen for sponsors when it comes to the CRO sponsor relationship. And I think that is something that my sponsors look for when they're bringing me on board, is to help them in that area, because they don't know what they don't know. I'm working with a sponsor right now where I'm working with a data manager who we're kind of co-leading these big trials right now. And his primary experience is on the sponsor side. He's worked in industry for years and years and years, as long as I have, but his primary experience is on the sponsor side. My primary experience is on the CRO side. So that's really a beautiful combination for this sponsor to have both perspectives. And I think that one of the things I bring to the table, and that a lot of my colleagues bring to the table, is that we were at the CRO for a long time. Mm-hmm. We speak the CRO language. We understand the CRO pathways, budgets, margins.
Mentalities there.
We understand everything that happens at the CRO inside and out, and how that translates to the sponsor. Now we're having to educate the sponsors on that. And it is a really great thing when the sponsor and the CRO are speaking in harmony. They're speaking the same dialect. They're understanding each other. And I think that more of that is always going to be good for sponsors. I wish there was some academy lesson or some course that sponsors could just listen to, maybe almost like an ex-CRO working for ex-CRO team members working at sponsors now. What would those people want sponsors to know? And
okay. So what about the CRO model and how the technology changes are impacting that?
So because that is the key right there. When sponsors, and so this is the way I would ask the question: what flexibility do sponsors have? What flexibilities do sponsors have to create their dream team? Do they all have to stay at the same CRO?
But I don't want to talk about it from this. I don't want to talk about it from the sponsor perspective. I want to talk about it from your perspective. How are you impacted by this?
I can tell you that because for me, working with quality data management teams is more critical. And I would advise my sponsors to work with quality data management teams, not to be forced into working with the DM team that your ClinOps group wants to work with. You see what I'm saying? So, yes. if they have all the sites, if they have all the feasibility, if they have all the patients that they can enroll, then of course your ClinOps is going to want to go with them. But if their DM sucks, sponsors need to know that there's a massive movement in decoupling data management and biostats from the larger award and going with more niche CROs that can provide better service. In return, what that means is I'm able to promote and work with really top level talent and ensure that my clients get the absolute best data management service, because I can't always say that CRO X, Y, or Z is the best because I don't feel that, right? I know the best data management CROs, and I can point them in that direction if they're willing to take the mitigated risk of decoupling data management from their full service award.
And that's the question is, so that brings us back to, is the CRO model something that maybe we don't so much need anymore?
I believe in the CRO model. I just don't believe in big CRO model as the only solution.
Okay.
So I do think that based on my experiences with my sponsors, we benefit a great deal from having really solid CRO partners.
Okay.
And building a solid CRO partner is not just the responsibility of the CRO coming to the table and being solid. It's also the responsibility of the sponsor to come to the table and say, this is what I need from a partner. Can you perform in this way? And holding them accountable to perform in that way, laying the foundation of what's required and making sure your budget aligns with those requirements, making sure your scope aligns with those requirements, and just making sure that the ethos of the team is aligned. Right. And you can get that in big CRO, you can get that in small CRO, but really just both coming to the table. A lot of times, one of the misconceptions is that sponsors think, well, what is the CRO going to do for me? How well are they going to do it for me? How quickly are they going to do it for me? And I've been a part of many teams like that. And really, the CRO or the sponsor DMs are very busy as well. And we have to make a commitment to come to the table too and review things on time, provide quality review, share the responsibility and ownership. Even though the buck stops with the sponsor, and we all know that now, there's no more saying we delegated that to the CRO and that's their fault. That's not the world we live in anymore. There is this mentality that there should be this mentality with all sponsors that it is a joint responsibility, but ultimately stops with us. So we have to lay that foundation. We have to bring the talent to the table. It's not just about making sure you have talent at the CRO level. You have to make sure you have the talent on your own team. And that's not just data management, that's cross-functionally.
And that is one of the things that as a consultant and as, as a trusted advisor, as an auditor, as someone who does inspection readiness and inspection prep and mock inspections on behalf of sponsor clients, and this is something that Jen and I have mentioned on Queens of Quality seasons past, is the sponsor is the ultimate responsible party. And we kind of felt like that was one of the things that we could have tattooed on our foreheads, because and that's one of the reasons why I question the CRO model. And you brought up really great points about the ethos of the team. And one of the areas that I've had issues with any of the service level providers, not just CROs, I'm not calling them out specifically, but is that idea of, well, we're really we're partners. We're not just
workhorses.
Right. Like, we really view it as a partnership with the clients. And it's like, no, you're not. You're the help. Please no.
Oh my gosh, do not say that. Do not put that in your podcast. But I
do. I've put that in many times. Like, no, I totally get it. I am not the ultimate responsible party. I'm the help.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be at the CRO, CDMO, whatever level it is, if you are providing services to a sponsor organization, you are the help.
A service provider.
And that's what I've said. And I've had that discussion with other folks, when they've talked about how they present and how they want to be presented, is they're like, yeah, well, we don't call ourselves a service provider. We call ourselves the partner, because we really partner with our clients. And I'm like, no, you don't partner with your clients.
You know what, though? It's interesting that you say that, because I'm working with a sponsor right now that really does want the CRO to take on that partnership mentality, because even though there is a primary head of the partnership, there is a leader in the partnership, they want that investment from their CRO team. They want the mentality that we're all going to succeed. If we succeed, we all succeed. If we fail, we all fail, right? And I remember at the CRO that you and I worked at together, one of our big mantras in every bid defense was we've rescued studies, but we've never had a study rescued from us, right? And in reality, that was true, but that was something that we could really hang our cap on. And it's true today. How many CROs want to really say how many studies have been rescued from them? It's not really a positive thing. And so it's a reputation thing as well. And I do believe that my sponsors want a partnership, but they need to understand, and that comes from education from the top down, is that it's not a shared partnership.
Right.
It's a operational partnership, but the risk is solely on the side of the sponsor when it comes to the drug, the hope that it provides patients down the line, the investment that's being made. That is all on the shoulders of the sponsor. And we, being at a CRO for so long, there was so much, comfort knowing that this sponsor could close tomorrow and I still have a job, right? And for me, being on the sponsor side now, that's very worrisome, right? Because if they close tomorrow, I don't have a job. But I also look at it from a much deeper perspective now, that if they close tomorrow, this cancer drug that has been in trials and it has been maybe giving some patients hope, didn't work. It's just another thing that didn't work for the patients that are on that trial. And that's the real loss there, right? And so this idea of partnership is a bit, it's not a gray area. I think it's just kind of from where your perspective lies. But I definitely want my data managers to see it as an operational partnership. When I'm working with them, I want them to be as invested as I am.
And maybe that's part of what really needs to be defined, is what does an operational partnership look like, and to provide that clarity. Because right. I find that, so my target client is small to mid-size organizations who need the advising services, but also need the advisement on who to talk to about data management, who to talk to about IT, who to talk to about some of the other services that are needed in order to get to that point within getting a product, be it, drug, vaccine, device, to clinical trial, but ultimately to the patient, right? Because it's bench to bedside is what we're looking at. And how do we have those conversations to get them to that point, right?
Well, I think as consultants, we're expected to come to the table with our best. So the best of ourselves and the best of whatever we recommend, right? And so I really love when I can recommend my colleagues. Sometimes if a sponsor comes to me, I don't have the bandwidth. I have 3 or 4 excellent data managers that I can also recommend. And that gives me great pride that I work with, and I know and have maintained connections with such wonderful industry leaders, right? Database builders, clinical programmers, data managers, support data managers, and even in ClinOps, if someone says, hey, I need a ClinOps lead for this study, do you know anyone? I know an excellent ClinOps lead. I've worked with her we worked at our first CRO with her. I don't know, the PM, and she's wonderful. And I would recommend her in a heartbeat to work with any of my partners. So, it's just bringing your best to the table includes bringing your best recommendations for people to help the sponsor move this drug, this compound, this vaccine, this device, whatever, move it forward. And I really value the opportunity to do that and to promote the other people that I've worked with for years and years. I will say, when I left the CRO and joined the consulting world, several people left around the same time, and we're all still consultants. And that's a really beautiful thing. It's kind of like you can bounce ideas off each other. You're in the same position, so you're recommending each other for work. I sent a Teams message to a database builder and an expert data management consultant because I had a question about a certain module in an EDC. And it was very, very comforting to know that I was asking experts. So even though as a consultant, you're alone, right? I'm technically a company of one. I'm really never alone because I've worked with the best of the best, in my opinion. And I've maintained relationships with the best of the best. And they've maintained relationship with me, and we're able to rely on each other in this consultant world. So I think that's another benefit that I bring to my sponsors is that I have a support system. They may not even know it. I may never even ever say that to them. But it's a benefit that I know I bring to the table is that I'm not operating as an individual. I'm really operating with an army behind me. And so really just wanting these people to want to collaborate with me and vice versa is something I also is something else I offer to my sponsors that may not even be visible to them.
Excellent. All right. And then kind of one last, as we work our way through this a little bit. One of the things that I've noticed at Metis, and that I am sure that you share, is there's an ownership that we have of what we advise for our clients, where we feel responsible for what our offerings are, and a level of confidence within our expertise that we can provide not only our best, but also that when we recommend someone, we're like, this is someone we're entrusting you with, and how important that is to nurture that relationship within our client base and within our fellow consultants. And I think that that's one of the things that we really are looking to bring within the industry is that level of responsibility and that level of returning rewards.
Yeah, and returning rewards looks like what to Metis?
I mean, returning rewards means that we really are living up to the trusted advisor piece.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's very similar for KLH.
Yeah, for me, the trusted advisor piece carries a very heavy weight, and one that I try very hard to honor every day, because I, just speaking very bluntly, I have let clients down in the past. I think we all have. either by overcommitting, undercommitting. I think just things in our lives, there's no fallback, right? And at a CRO, they can say, oh, Katrina needs to go on family leave, or Michelan needs to go on medical leave. So let's just slot another DM in there. Let's slot another QA person in there. And really, when we're on our own, there's no such thing, right? It's like, okay, well, we're gonna have to go another direction. And that's a terrible feeling. It's happened to me. I'm not going to lie to your listeners. It's happened to me a couple times, just where I've had to terminate a contract, and it's not a good feeling. But what I will say is that the amount of pride that I have in my career, without sounding conceited, I have a lot of pride in what I've done over the last 25 years in this industry. And I have a lot of confidence in what I've learned. And I have a lot of gratitude for the people I learned it from. And for me, bringing all of those things together, I just hope that with every opportunity I have to impact the sponsors' trial, the sponsor's experience, the sponsor's knowledge, and even the CRO, right? You want the CRO to have a positive experience by you as well. And that's a huge thing. And so when you're able to positively impact those areas, that furthers your pride in your own work and who you are as a person. But let's face it, we do this 8 to 10, sometimes 12 hours a day. And we might as well be proud of ourselves for doing it. And we might as well find some, and I find a lot of happiness knowing that the drugs that I'm working on could potentially provide hope and health for people I will never meet. And when I first started at the small CRO that you and I worked with and started out at 2004, I was working on a phase 3 colon cancer study.
Mm-hmm.
And my uncle ended up being a trial participant. Now,
Right.
7 years later, he passed away from colon cancer. And that drug did work. It did work and provide some compassionate use for a while. It ultimately didn't move through the approval process. But it was at that point, very, very early in my career, my job met my reality. And from there, I was kind of off to the races as far as motivation for doing well at what I do every day.
And that's, for me, that's really where it all kind of begins and ends. Is my trajectory was different because I started out, before I got into this industry, I worked for a clinic in Houston where they were it was an HIV and STD clinic, and they were placing people in clinical trials. So I saw it from a different lens before I got started on this side. So for me, the patient piece has always been super present.
Right.
So I just recognized from way back then that I didn't have the bandwidth to be on the client facing side or on the patient facing side. So that's why I was really happy to find my way to this end where there's a few degrees between me and the patients.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, talking about that, ownership of the pieces, I knew that I couldn't be patient facing because I get too attached. I don't get as attached to other companies. But here we go off on another road. But I'm very grateful for you for taking the time to speak with us today. And I look forward to working with you for another, hopefully we'll be able to retire before another 25 years goes by. But,
hopefully,
we'll we'll see how that goes. Thank you so much. And if anyone has any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to us at hello@medisconsultingservices.com. And we can also put you in touch with Katrina. Thank you, Katrina.
Thank you, Michelin. And that's how you pronounce her name, Michelin.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Queens of Quality podcast, and a special thank you to our incredible guest. By the way, we love hearing from you, our listeners. Please let us know what you think, or if you have any questions or comments, or if you would like to be a guest on the Queens of Quality podcast, you can email us at hello@medisconsultingservices.com, or check the show notes for more ways to contact us. I promise we read every email and take your thoughts into consideration for future episodes. And as always, if you could, take a few moments to rate or review us on your favorite streaming service. It makes a huge difference in getting the word out. Remember, folks, quality means patient safety first, and we are the Queens of Quality.